Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and we are back with more notable names in Arab American history. Before we jump into this video, I do want to go ahead and remind you I have two ways to donate to the channel. One being a Patreon account. That is a month-to-month donation website, whereas I also have a coffee account which can do month to month, but it also allows you to do one-time donations. Links to both sites will be in the description box below the video. If you are financially struggling, I'd rather you not donate. I'd rather you be able to take care of what you need to take care of in your own life. Things are hard enough out there as it is. If you can afford it and you want to donate, thank you. I appreciate it so much. With that, let's jump into the video. Today, we are looking at Ibrahim Abu-Lughod. And as the image that you're looking at there says, one of the most significant and articulate Palestinian American intellectuals of his generation died on May the 23rd, 2001 at his home in Ramallah, Palestine at the age of 72. He was a scholar, educator, activist, and institution builder in both North America and the Middle East. But yeah. And this information I'm about to read to you is Middle East Research and Information Project.org. This is shortly after his death. Ibrahim Abu-Lughod, one of the most significant and articulate Palestinian American intellectuals of his generation, died on May the 23rd, 2001 at his home in Ramallah, Palestine at the age of 72. Scholar, activist, educator, and institution builder for both North America and the Middle East, he was charismatic and a passionate advocate for the Palestinian human and political rights, as well as for progressive politics throughout the Middle East. He was a man of great integrity, was warm, generous, urbane, erudite, and funny, a wonderful storyteller, and a pragmatic visionary who was able to pull the best out of people with his great enthusiasm and boundless energy. He was the quintessential teacher, always willing to share his knowledge, to challenge his listeners' preconceptions, and to support younger scholars with his time and insights. He was born in Jaffa, Palestine on February the 15th, 1929, and on May the 3rd, 1948, as Jaffa fell, he reluctantly left the city of his birth. Remember, 48, we have the creation of the nation, recreation of the nation of Israel. Eventually, he made his way to the United States, where he quickly earned a Bachelor of Arts and Master of Arts degrees from the University of Illinois, and in 1957 a PhD from Princeton University. So clearly highly intelligent. You're getting a doctorate's degree from an Ivy League college like Princeton. He worked with UNESCO in Egypt, creating a relationship with the organization that extended throughout his life, and at Smith College and McGill University before joining the faculty of Northwestern University in 1967, serving as chair of the political science department for those two higher learning institutions between 85 and 88. Or maybe it was at Northwestern University. He served as the chair of political science. Anyway, he was absolutely committed to the possibility of Israelis and Palestinian Arabs coexisting equally in the land of Palestine. It isn't normal for the people of the Middle East to live in perpetual conflict, he stated emphatically. This cannot last forever. There must be a political solution, but it must be one that does not condemn the Palestinians to a position of subordination to Israel. These ideas were further developed in his classes, his frequent public lectures, and his numerous authored and edited books, several of which have become classics. Despite his great skills as an academic, he was not content only to lecture and write, maintaining that Palestinians must not remain victims, but become doers. Indeed, Abu-Lughod was politically active in his entire life, beginning as a student where he demonstrated against the British presence in Palestine, and was a member of the Palestine National Council between 1977 and 1991, and lent his voice and talents to numerous Palestinian organizations and initiatives around the world. He was one of the founders of the Association of Arab American University Graduates in 1968, and along with his friend Edward Said, established the multidisciplinary journal Arab Studies Quarterly. As a result of his high visibility and stature, Abu-Lughod and Said were asked to meet with the Secretary of State George Shultz in March of 1988 as part of an initial U.S. moves toward recognition of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, the PLO. In 1992, Abu-Lughod returned to the Middle East, settling in Ramallah. During the 9 years he resided in the West Bank, he continued to work on behalf of Palestinian educational, social, and cultural development, and taught political science at Birzeit University, and for several years served as the institution's vice president. It is in that capacity he initiated the development of a graduate facility, beginning with master's programs in international studies and in education, and due in large part to his efforts, Birzeit now offers more than a dozen graduate programs. Between 95 and 97, he headed the Curriculum Development Center that was responsible for developing an independent Palestinian national school, and then created the Al-Katan Foundation for Educational Research, devoted to strengthening education at all levels in Palestine. At his death, he was deeply involved in preliminary steps to establish a national library and museum of the Palestinian memory that would trace Palestinian lives from prehistory until the present. Always a political independent, Abu-Lughod was critical of the ossification of Palestinian bureaucracy that he observed in the years following the Oslo Accords, and deeply troubled by the autocratic elements within the government. Yet he never gave up working for a free, independent, and democratic Palestine. So, yeah. Like I said, that's from the Middle East Research and Information Project. So, yeah. Now, let's hop over to an article from The Guardian here. Article's up there in age, but it's talking about him when he passed. Charismatic orator and natural leader Ibrahim Abu-Lughod, who has died of lung cancer in Ramallah, aged 72, was Palestine's foremost academic and intellectual. He was a professor and vice president of Birzeit University on the West Bank, and was a brilliant teacher, scholar, and organizer who crisscrossed the area, lecturing, organizing seminars, and appearing at conferences. Abu-Lughod was as much in demand for his forceful presence as for his personal generosity and warmth. During the last decade of his life, he was the founder of and active in the Independent Commission for Citizens' Rights, the Center for Curricular Reform, and most recently, the Katan Cultural Center in Ramallah. He was born in the port of Jaffa in British Mandate, Palestine, and was the son of a metal manufacturer and graduated from his local high school. Involved in the struggle for Palestinian rights from his student days, he was a young demonstrator against the British in Palestine and skirmished with Zionist settlers in the Jaffa area. Yeah, there were many Zionists who already wanted to reestablish a state of Israel. But at this point, it was Palestine under British control. Because we're between World War I and World War II, that in-between area. And then, yeah, with the establishment of a state of Israel in 1948, he was forced to leave the region and was on the last boat evacuating Arabs from Jaffa. As a refugee, he then went to the United States via Beirut. He graduated from the University of Illinois with a Bachelor of Arts in 1951 and a PhD of Middle Eastern Studies from Princeton in 1957. After 3 years as a field expert in Egypt for the United Nations Educational, Social, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, he returned to the U.S. He began his academic career at Smith College in Northampton, Massachusetts, before moving to McGill University in Montreal, I'm assuming Canada, and then spending 34 years at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois, where he founded the Institute of African Studies and was professor of political science. After completing his graduate education, he quickly established himself as the leading Arab academic activist in North America. After the 1967 war between Israel and Egypt, Jordan, and Syria, which led to the Israeli occupation of the West Bank, Gaza, and the Golan Heights, he founded the Association of Arab American University Graduates in 1968. He maintained a heavy schedule of speaking engagements about the Palestinian cause, made frequent visits to the Arab world, and because of his interest in liberation movements, traveled equally wide in Asia and Africa. He never lost his sense of intellectual honesty and scrupulous scholarship. He brought to bear the encyclopedic knowledge of the Third World, Arab culture, history, and language, and the Western tradition of rationalism and humane understanding to issues of education, political organization, and cultural development. He had no peers in his work and won recognition throughout the world. He held several UN consultancies, and in 1977 was elected a member of the Palestine National Council and began work for the establishment under the auspices of UNESCO of a Palestine National Open University to be headquartered in Beirut. He was forestalled in June 1982 by the Israeli invasion of Lebanon. Israel's proven how much of a monster they have become. Zionism is one of the evilest things out there. But anyway. He then returned to Northwestern University. In April of 1988, he and I met then U.S. Secretary of State George Shultz. I'm assuming that's Edward Said who said I. Yeah, Edward Said is who wrote this. So. We told him that the Palestinian people were prepared to coexist with Israel if their self-determination was ensured by a Middle East peace plan. What was needed was a mode of sharing and coexistence between national communities in historic Palestine. Something Israel don't care about because it don't care about people. It's a genocidal, evil idea. Honestly, this is just as vile and despicable as the way the Nazis exterminated Jewish people. It's on the same level. It really is. In 1991, he resigned from the PNC and was thus able, as a naturalized American, to return to Palestine and Israel in 1992 for the first time since 1948. He decided to settle in the land of his birth and took the job at Birzeit near Ramallah. Voracious and critical reader, he was also an author and editor, and the Arab-Israeli confrontation of 1967, An Arab Perspective, and the Transformation of Palestine were two of his most important books. His first book, The Arab Rediscovery of Europe, pioneered the study of Arab views and experiences of Europe during the reign of Egypt's Muhammad Ali in the early to mid-19th century. He wrote and co-wrote innumerable articles, monographs, and learned studies in both English and Arabic, mostly on politics, history, and education in Palestine and the Arab world. His fame and influence by the time of his death were worldwide, unique for an intellectual whose distance from power and worldly prosperity was so vigorously maintained. His skeptical mind and positive vision inspired his students as well as many colleagues and friends. His marriage to Janet Abu-Lughod ended in divorce. He is survived by 4 children, Lila, Miriam, Dina, and Jawad, and 6 grandchildren. He was buried next to his father in the family plot at Ajami District Cemetery, in Jaffa. Ibrahim Abu-Lughod, scholar and campaigner, February the 15th, 1929. Died May the 23rd, 2001. So that was an article from The Guardian. One of the better newspapers out there. And finally, we have a Wikipedia article. We've already talked about his birth and death. Palestinian American academic who was characterized by Edward Said as Palestine's foremost academic and intellectual, and by Rashid Khalidi as one of the first Arab American scholars to have a really serious effect on the way the Middle East is portrayed in political science and in America. His student, Deborah J. Gerner, wrote that he took on the challenge of interpreting U.S. politics and society for the Palestinian community, as well as eloquently articulating Palestinian aspirations to the rest of the world. Let's see. Father of metal manufacturer. Let's see. He completed high school in March 1948, after which he volunteered to work for the National Committee in Jaffa to discourage residents from leaving the city in the face of what Jamal R. Nassar described as Zionist assaults. We now know that was true. His own family left only weeks later, on April the 23rd of the same year. Active in the resistance, he remained behind a little bit longer, but on May the 3rd, 1948, he left on the Belgian ship Prince Alexander, the last ship out of Jaffa, and headed to Beirut. From Beirut, he soon landed as a refugee in the United States. Let's see. We've talked a lot about his academic gains. According to Edward Said, he established a reputation as the leading Arab academic activist in North America with an encyclopedic knowledge of the Third World, Arab culture, history, and language, and the Western tradition of rationalism and humane understanding. According to Kenneth Janda, his course on the politics of the Middle East regularly attracted many Jewish students, some of whom enrolled to monitor his lectures, and invariably they left the class professing admiration for Ibrahim's knowledge and even-handedness in dealing with the difficult political issues in the region. So yeah. Served as a statesman. We talked about a number of ways. Meeting with former U.S. Secretary of State George Shultz to try to get recognition for Palestine. Something that never happened. It's only taken this genocide by Israel where a lot of nations are starting to go, yeah, we recognize Palestine. And it's actually getting a seat at the UN and everything. Like I said, it has to take something on the level of the Nazi Holocaust of Jewish people for this to happen. So yeah. Deborah J. Gerner writes that he was critical of the ossification of the Palestinian bureaucracy, and he observed in the years following the Oslo Accords and deeply troubled by the autocratic elements within the government. Yet he never gave up working for a free, independent, and democratic Palestine. So yeah. Birzeit University honored him posthumously, naming the Ibrahim Abu-Lughod Institute of International Studies after him. And some of his works that are available. They've listed 3 books here. And then a number of articles. And works that he actually edited. So yeah. Ibrahim Abu-Lughod. Clearly a man underappreciated for his contributions. This is an image of Lughod and Said. I think that's who it's supposed to be. From Lughod's point of view, I whispered in Edward's ear, "We are nearing a revolution point." He smiled at me and said, "Ibrahim Abu-Lughod and I are watching over you. Just remember that whole planet is a hotel and the home is Jerusalem." So yeah. But I think this is supposed to be an image of Said and Abu-Lughod. And I apologize if I've been butchering the names. I'm just trying to pronounce them to the best of my personal ability. I guess I could look them up, but yeah. But we'll go ahead and end this episode there. As always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources, and it can't just be some tinfoil hat wearing sources or a bunch of anecdotes slapped together to try to make a source. I'll be putting my links and sources in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.